If you steal a car and you run down a cyclist on purpose for fun, and that person dies, you are likely going to prison for life. And society will call that a win, probably for two reasons. First, you deserve it. And second, we'd all be protected with you being locked away. Kind of makes sense, right? But what if a kid does it? And when I say kid, I mean a 12-year-old kid. Certainly he needs to be punished, and we need to be protected from someone like that. But a kid that young, they barely know right from wrong. And yet when 12-year-old Jonathan Overbay swerved his stolen car into a 63-year-old man for fun, he had to know that that man could get terribly hurt. And that is exactly what happened, but worse. The man was killed. Overbay has since turned 13 because it has been almost a year since he and two of his buddies, one of them 15 and the other one just 11, killed that cyclist who was on his way to work in Albuquerque. You have seen this awful video, I'm sure, a dozen times. It was shot by the teenager sitting in the back seat while the 11-year-old egged on Jonathan to bump him. And him was Scott Habermill, a 63-year-old nuclear physicist who worked at the Sandia National Laboratory. As we told you last night, 13-year-old Jonathan pleaded guilty this week to second-degree murder. But here's the rub. I've seen the paperwork, and in the eyes of the law in New Mexico, he did not officially commit a crime per se, because at the tender age of 12/13, he admitted to and was sentenced for something called a delinquent act. And what is the sentence for a boy who deliberately rammed a 63-year-old cyclist and killed him? Confinement in New Mexico's juvenile system until he turns 21. 8 years, that's the max. As for the other kids in the car who laughed and waved a gun and posted a murder online and stayed quiet about it for a year, their days are coming. And that includes the youngest one, an 11-year-old, a child named Messiah Hayes. The Albuquerque DA told me right here last night that when Messiah turns 12, and that is about 3 weeks from now, a very grown-up charge will be waiting for him.
I will tell you that 11-year-old will be charged with murder. When he turns 12 years old, he will be charged with murder. We need to do everything we can to make sure we hold these young kids accountable when they do something like this and protect the community. And it's extremely frustrating. Times are changing. This isn't about a couple of kids fighting behind the high school anymore. This is about kids who are violently hurting and killing people on the streets of Albuquerque.
And when it comes to kids who are violently hurting and killing people, Michael Rosenfield might just be the best person on the subject because he is the attorney who secured the plea deal for 13-year-old Jonathan Overbay. Mr. Rosenfield, thank you so much for being on the program. I have so many questions for you. Let me start with this one. Are you satisfied with the resolution in your client's case, with the punishment that he's received?
Yes, under our system of justice, a boy, and you have to understand, I've represented a number of people like Jonathan. These are not young men, these are boys. They have the minds of boys. Jonathan at the time was a preteen. And so you have to look at what is the best for a boy like Jonathan, what is the best for society in terms of what you call punishment to make sure that he doesn't do this again and that he understands what happened. And the system that we have now, he will go to a juvenile rehabilitation center until his 21st birthday, as you said, and then he'll be released. At that rehab center, hopefully he will get the counseling that he so sorely needs. He'll get the education that he doesn't have, and he will return to society, as everybody will, when they get out of either a locked up facility for adults or for children. He'll return to society, hopefully better able to cope with some of the issues that he had before he committed this crime.
That's a huge issue for the people who are listening, especially those right now in Albuquerque, in his community, because I'm sure many people will agree, you're right, he was 12, but many others will say, I want to ride my bike, and I want to know I will live, and that someone isn't going to get out of juvenile and go back to the streets and do things like this or worse. How can we be sure that this boy will become a good man?
Well, we can't be sure. We can only do the best we can. CYFD runs this facility. I've been to that facility that he's going to. He's probably there already, and they do a good job there. But it's really important for people to understand. It's like with the death penalty. The argument used to be if you have the death penalty, it will deter violent crimes and people will not commit heinous murders because they know they're going to get executed. That's a false premise. It's been shown that it doesn't make any sense. It's not true. And it's the same thing with boys like Jonathan. And I've represented a number of these boys. They are boys, and almost every one of them comes from a dysfunctional family. They have a lot of them have no moral compass because they don't get one at home. These are not middle-class children who were brought up in a home where mom and dad go to work in the morning and then they come home after school and they go to basketball or soccer or band practice like most normal middle-class kids. These are kids, who come for the most part, and I'm not singling Jonathan out. You have to understand that this is, as Sam Bregman said last night, there are a lot of these kids out there, and they, for the most part, come from dysfunctional families, and their moral compasses are not set straight in the home. So
you just mentioned Sam Bregman, and I just want the viewers to know who you're talking about. That is the DA who was on the program last night, who said that there is a real crisis in the Albuquerque area and in New Mexico in particular, with youth on the street who are dangerous. I do want to ask you about this young man, Jonathan Overbay's mother, because she was in court. She gave an apology in court. She gave a statement. And I'm wondering what her exposure is here, because all over the country, we're starting to see prosecutors going after parents to say, if your kid does something like this and someone dies, we're going to look to you. Is she exposed? Might she be charged in this case?
Not right now. There's no law that I'm aware of in New Mexico that would make a parent liable for a child. We've seen in other states parents are being held criminally liable if their children take firearms from the home and harm other people. The states and those states are trying to go after those parents. We don't have that in New Mexico right now.
I'll say this because Mr. Rosenfield, people watching right now will say this happened at 4:30 in the morning and these kids were in a stolen car. One was 11, one was 12, one was 15. Where the hell were all three of their parents? And I'm going to take back asking about mom and whether she was exposed. Mom and dad. Why are mom and dad of Jonathan Overbay, who obviously failed this kid miserably, not going to have to account not only to their kid and the injustice that they gave him, but the injustice towards this victim's family?
Yeah, I can't answer that question. The state legislatures are going to have to grapple with those kinds of questions. I'm aware of the family situation, but because of confidential communications, I cannot explain what happened in that home. But those are very important questions to ask.
Obviously, I think so many of us are starting to wonder if there's an epidemic of kids behaving this way. There's an epidemic of parents who yielded to this happening. I do want to ask you one thing, Mr. Rosenfield, and that is in the negotiation with the DA's office about your client, Jonathan Overbay's plea deal. One of the requests you made was that Jonathan is not going to testify against the other two in the car. Why is that?
Because sometimes the district attorneys will wait until after somebody who does not agree to testify against co-defendants enters a plea. Sometimes they're sentenced, sometimes they're not. And then the state will subpoena them to testify against the co-defendants at their trials, even though there was no agreement to do so. And when there is an agreement to do so, generally the judge gives a lighter sentence. But we wanted to make sure in this case, because Jonathan did not want to testify against either of the other, they're actually not co-defendants or co-respondents, because it's not a criminal case per se. And he didn't want to do that, and that was part of the plea agreement.
It just pains me to hear he didn't want to do that. I sort of feel like his feelings shouldn't be incorporated into the metric at this point. One quick question. I only have 10 seconds left. He gets his record wiped clean, doesn't he? He comes out at 21 without any record at all, correct?
That's correct, because in our justice system, he's being prosecuted in juvenile court. He's not being charged with a crime. He's being charged with a delinquent act. He's not pleading guilty. He's admitting to a delinquent act. So the way the law works is that he hasn't, it won't affect his Second Amendment right, when he comes out of the juvenile facility at age 21.
It's extraordinarily frustrating. I'd love to have you back. It's a healthy conversation. There are definitely two sides to this. It's maddening on both sides. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Mr. Rosenfield.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.